What's going on, everybody? Hope you're ready for another ProGuides Wild Rift news recap. I'm Kangas, and we got some awesome stuff to talk about today, including the schedule for everything that's coming to Wild Rift until the end of March. Plus, we'll talk a little bit about the first LAN event ever for the game. Make sure to stick around to the end so that you don't miss anything. Okay, so the plan is to go through all the details of Riot's recently announced Wild Rift Patch 2.1 preview. This is the first time that we've gotten such a big sneak peek, and we've got some really good stuff to look forward to this time around. Patch 2.1 will last from February until the end of March, and everything in this video will be released sometime during that patch. During Patch 2.1, we're getting to get 3 balanced patches along the way, so make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss out on our balanced patch rundowns. Just a quick reminder, this is a tentative list for Patch 2.1, and this list does not cover everything that's coming. Before we get started with our recap, our question of the day is, what excites you the most about Patch 2.1? Let us know in the comments down below. Alright, so let's get started with our list of stuff that's coming in Patch 2.1. We've got champions, new features, skins, events, and more. So let's get into it. The first thing that we'll talk about is a replay and spectator system that's coming to Wild Rift. Yep, that's right. You can finally watch your best and worst plays through the game's client. This is a much needed feature in Wild Rift, and we're really excited to see what comes out of it. We aren't expecting a perfect system, and there will definitely be bugs, but it's a step in the right direction. Replays will give players a chance to go over their games and take a look at their mistakes without needing to stream the matches that they're playing. This is huge for people who want to get better at the game, and you won't have to guess why a game went wrong if you can just open up the replay and see what happened. Once a more official ranked system comes out, make sure you're checking out the game so you can learn from your mistakes. And when you're tired of playing, you can also just spectate players on your friends list to give them some emotional support from the sidelines. Or if you're like me and want to watch them miss those split screen cooks, whatever your reason is for spectating or watching replays, the two features are a huge part of League of Legends, and I'm glad that we're getting them sooner rather than later in Wild Rift. Next up, let's jump into the champions that are confirmed in Patch 2.1. We'll go over everything that we know about them from League, including their abilities and even their lore. The two champions coming to Wild Rift in late February are known for being an inseparable pair of lovers, just in time for Valentine's Day. Xayah and Rakan are two Ionian Vistaya, a race of half human, half animals, who want to bring their magic to the world. The couple was released on the same day in League, something that doesn't usually happen. They're also the only pair of champions to have different ability interactions, but only with each other. Xayah can give both herself and Rakan a boost of attack speed and movement speed, while Rakan's shield range is almost doubled if he's jumping to Xayah. You can also recall together, allowing one player to channel their recall early, the other person to join for the ride later by basing right next to them. Now that we've talked about the passive bonuses, let's talk about the champion abilities in League of Legends. Remember that Riot might make adjustments to these abilities in Wild Rift though. Starting off with Xayah, she's a marksman that relies on planning and proper positioning to deal as much damage as possible to her enemies. Her unique mechanic is her passive, which gives Xayah empowered auto attacks after using her abilities. These auto attacks cleave through multiple enemies, leaving behind feathers at the end. Now that we know how her feathers work, let's talk about her actual kit. Her one ability shoots out 2 feathers in a straight line, which is useful for poking down enemies and setting up her feathers. Her 2 ability gives her and an ally Rakan bonus movement speed and attack speed, giving her mobility and damage. And Xayah's 3 ability is her signature move, the most important part of her entire kit. Once you activate your 3, Xayah will recall all the feathers that she's placed on the battlefield, and these deal a ton of damage. And if you hit a target with more than 3, you'll root them in place. When we finally get to player, you'll quickly realize how important your feather placements are for your damage and survivability. Xayah's ultimate is an excellent peeling tool as she jumps into the air and remains invulnerable for a short amount of time. Then she throws 5 feathers out in a cone in front of her, and while it might not sound like much, this ult is one of Xayah's best tools as it's a self-peeling ability for a marksman. And moving on to Rakan, he is a charming support that blurs the line between a traditional enchanter and an engage tool. Rakan is one of the fastest supports in the game, and he dashes around the fight constantly, knocking up enemies and, of course, shielding allies. His passive gives him a bonus shield to his health, and it recharges faster the more abilities that you land. His one ability throws out a thin feather. If it hits an enemy champion, you'll surround yourself with a heal that will proc after a few seconds. You can also heal an ally by walking up to them and touching them with the ability. Rakan's 2 is one of his core abilities. He dashes to an area, then after a brief delay, he knocks up everyone around him. His 3 ability is his shield, allowing Rakan to dash to an ally a total of 2 times before the cooldown runs out. Each dash will apply a shield to the ally. All of these abilities are decent on their own, but Rakan's ult is really what brings together his entire kit. Once you activate it, Rakan gains a huge burst of movement speed and charms any enemy that he touches. You can only charm an enemy once, but each enemy charmed will give you additional movement speed. If you're quick enough, you can ult out of sight, dash to an ally with your shield, and then jump in and knock up the entire enemy team with your 2, charming them after. The next champion confirmed to arrive in March is Katarina. We got to see a sneak peek of her during the 2021 announcement this year, so let's go through her kit so you can get comfortable with her before she's released. Katarina is a mobile assassin that literally never sits still. She teleports around, dealing massive bursts of damage whenever she picks up her dagger. Her passive is what resets her cooldowns by 15 seconds whenever she gets a kill, allowing you to use all of your basic abilities instantly after you kill an enemy. Katarina also spins around and deals damage every time that she walks over a dagger, which also reduces the cooldown on her instantly blink ability. This passive will make more sense once we've talked about the rest of her kit. Her 1 ability throws a blade that bounces before landing at a location. Her 2 ability places a dagger at her current location, and her 3 ability allows Katarina to blink to a ward, minion, champion, or dagger. As seen in the trailer, her ultimate is an iconic flurry of blades around her, with the ability to slowly move around in Wild Rift. Katarina is a pretty hard champion to get the hang of at first, but once you get used to throwing her daggers, you'll be assassinating people in no time. And if you thought that we were done with champion releases, we're only halfway there. Riot announced that Leona, Diana, and Pantheon will be joining Wild Rift sometime in mid-March. This steady stream of champions makes playing the game feel really fresh, so let's talk about these 3 Targonians and what they're bringing to the Rift. Leona is a tanky support that's great at locking down targets. Her passive places a mark on enemies that she hits with abilities, dealing extra damage whenever an ally hits an enemy that's marked. She's known as one of the Solari, a tribe of people who literally praise the sun. Leona's 1 ability is a short cooldown stun. It applies on her auto attack, which makes this a really good ability to reset your auto attack animation. Her 2 ability is probably her best basic one, and it's the main reason that players hate facing Leona in League. When you activate it, you gain a shield that grants you a bunch of bonus armor and magic resist. After a delay, the shield explodes, dealing damage to enemies and marking them with your passive. If you hit an enemy, the tanky stats last even longer, making Leona extremely difficult to kill. Her 3 ability is a skill shot that makes you dash to the last enemy champion that you hit. This will make landing your short range stunge a lot easier. Leona's ultimate calls down a beam of sunlight from the sky on a nearby area. Enemies hit in the center are stunned, while enemies on the outside are slowed. Moving on to Diana, she's a part of the Lunari, a tribe that worships the moon. Her passive gives her extra damage and attack speed, making her a close-range AP assassin with a consistent stream of damage. Her 1 ability is an iconic one, dealing damage in a crescent-shaped skill shot. Diana's 2 ability gives her a shield that also deals damage to nearby enemies, and her 3 ability is a targeted dash, dealing damage to whatever enemy you hit. If you recently marked an enemy with your 1, you can dash to that enemy, consuming the moonlight and actually resetting the cooldown on your 3. Your ultimate briefly knocks up enemies and pulls them into you, kind of like a self-ulting Orianna. The damage is increased the more champions that you hit. And moving on to the last champion to join us during March, one of my favorites, Pantheon is a warrior who's known for his unbreakable spirit in Targon. He's someone that dives into the enemy team, dealing massive damage and quickly killing squishy enemies. His passive empowers his basic abilities whenever he has 5 stacks of Mortal Will, which you can get by auto-attacking or using any of his abilities. His 1 ability lunges his spear forward a short distance, dealing extra damage to targets below 20% HP. Like Varus, you can actually hold the ability to extend the range. When 1 is empowered, you'll deal even more damage to all targets hit. Pantheon's 2 ability is a point-and-click stun that also deals a bit of damage. When this one's empowered, Pantheon also unleashes 3 fast auto attacks on his opponent, dealing some extra damage. Your 3 ability is very iconic. It's the shield that blocks all damage, but no longer including turret shots, coming from the direction that you're facing. When empowered, you'll gain a burst of movement speed at the end. Finally, Pantheon's ultimate is a semi-global ability. You choose an area to land at, then after a brief delay, you fly into the air and crash down on anyone in your path. This ultimate also gives you a passive armor penetration and resets your passive. And that's it for the champions coming to Wild Rift on patch 2.1. But don't go yet, we've still got some events and skins to talk about. Riot announced the next 2 events that'll be coming in February and March, the Lunar Revel event and the Path of Ascension event. Since League is having their Lunar Revel event soon, we're guessing that it'll come first for Wild Rift. The Path of Ascension event will most likely start in March, so keep an eye out for more announcements. We don't know if Riot will include new skins into these events, but don't worry, we've got some other skins to talk about now. Riot announced 2 skin lines that are being brought over from League of Legends, one of my favorite Omega Squad and Project. The Omega Squad skin lines belong to a group of Yordles in League, which means Tristana, Teemo, and Fizz are getting a skin in Wild Rift. And who knows, maybe we'll even see a new Omega Squad skin this time around. Looking at you, Lulu. If you watched our video on the favorite skin lines from League, we mentioned Project as one of our top choices for Wild Rift. Riot confirmed that 5 skins are coming to Wild Rift, we just aren't sure which ones. The announcement locked in Zed, but there's a lot of potential for the other 4. It could be Fiora, Master Yi, Leona, Ashe, even Katarina. There's over 15 Project skins, and I can't wait to see what we get in the coming weeks. So now that we've wrapped up the Wild Rift Patch 2.1 preview, we can talk a bit about the first LAN tournament for Wild Rift. The tournament took place at a Taipei game show. It featured a huge screen for players to spectate the matches. This is a pretty big step forward for the competitive scene of the game, and it won't be long until we start seeing official esports leagues for the game in the future. If you want to get better at the game, make sure to join our Discord with the link in the description down below. You'll find a bunch of players who are trying to get better just like you, and you'll also be the first to hear about our ProGuides Wild Rift coaching whenever it officially starts on the website. Well, that's it for the news. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed the content, and make sure to comment down below answering our question of the day. Until next time, as always, best of luck on the Rift. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time. And Leona's ultimate is a Call of Sunlight. Hey yo, it's going fast.